Hello, welcome back to Stories Lived, Stories Told. I'm Abbie. Thank you for joining me again for this mini-sode. One of my favorite words that I learned studying communication is the term metacommunication, which just means communicating about how you communicate. And that's basically what this podcast is. Each episode, we are engaging in metacommunication by unpacking the ways we communicate and interact with others. Now, we're doing this on a broad level on the podcast, but it's also an important thing to do on a more intimate level in all of our relationships. And having the language that CMM and other comm theories provide is what gives us the ability to metacommunicate. Because having language and the words to name our experiences and our feelings and the processes that are happening around us within communication is empowering, because you can't engage in any communication about your communication if you don't have language to talk about it. So I guess that is just my little plug for metacommunication. So let's keep adding to the language we have around communication. Today we're discussing 3 core concepts of CMM: coherence, coordination, and mystery. Let's dive right in. So, coherence, coordination, and mystery. These are 3 processes that work together to build communication as it's understood by CMM. Let's break this down. First, coherence. We know this word, right? If something is coherent, then it makes sense. It is clear, it is ordered. Part of the definition is that coherence is an integration of elements. It's a logical connection, right? You could say that an argument is coherent or that someone is speaking incoherently right now, meaning it doesn't make logical sense. In the world of CMM, then, coherence refers to the management and the meaning part of coordinated management of meaning. Coherence is the making and managing of meaning through our storytelling. It's the process of trying to make sense of our social worlds, to integrate what we experience and what we know to be true, to make the incoherent coherent. We experience lived stories, right? Using that language from the loop model, lived stories being the baseline of what is experienced before any meaning is added to it in our retelling of it. Because the stories we live only have meaning because we created the meaning around it. We often take that for granted. We assume that everyone relates the same meaning to the same stories that we do, but that's not always true. People will create meaning differently, which again is why metacommunication is so valuable. You can overcome that assumption that you create meaning the same and begin to actually let people tell you what things mean to them when you start to metacommunicate. Let's use an example. If someone in your life lets you down, you had an expectation for the relationship, and they did not fulfill it, and you are let down. Now, culturally, we kind of understand letting people down as a negative thing, but still, being let down only has the meaning it does to us because we attach it. We put the meaning onto the lived story. It doesn't come to us with meaning already innately attached. So, if you have been let down in a relationship, you're going to ascribe different meaning depending on your context. So if you have experienced serious disappointment in previous relationships and have really felt hurt when people let you down in ways that mattered to you, this is maybe a very sensitive area for you, then being let down by this person maybe has more weight to it. Alternately, if you have a really strong relationship with this person who let you down, they've come through for you time and time again, they've always been there for you, then maybe you aren't ascribing such heavy meaning to it because you're better able to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like using the daisy model, which we talked about a few episodes ago. If the center of the daisy is the act of being let down, then each of the petals around the center are the pieces of the puzzle that build your reaction to it, that inform how you place meaning on that center of the daisy. Again, in that example, neither of those interpretations of meaning or creations of meaning is the quote-unquote right or correct way to create meaning. They're just 2 different versions of legitimate responses. And this is important because Just because we wouldn't respond the same way as someone else does not invalidate their experience. One example I can think of is people telling others that they're overreacting. That's totally invalidating. That is a way of telling someone that their response is wrong. But we don't actually get to say that to people. Maybe that comes out of not understanding the other person's reaction. So instead of telling them they're being unreasonable and overreacting, we can seek to first understand them and why they might be reacting the way they are, asking questions like, what does this mean to you? Why are you reacting this way? What feelings are you experiencing? To me, all of these tools that CMM provides guides us towards seeking to understand others better and to understand ourselves. To me, that is always the goal, because miscommunication has serious impacts in our relationships and the quality of our relationships. The same way we've talked about how communication can sometimes be looked at as this abstract concept that is intangible. We don't recognize its very real effects in our lives because we dismiss it as being abstract. And the same is true for communication and miscommunication. So we should, if we have the tools, seek to eliminate that miscommunication by always engaging in the meta-communication. Say, what did you mean when you said that? And then maybe express how you're feeling. What did you mean when you said that? This is how I'm feeling that you said that. I'm confused about this. I don't think we're on the same page. Having those kinds of conversations opens up a whole new way of interacting with people that is just healthier and better. Now, the next part of the equation is coordination. Obviously, coordinated management of meaning involves some coordination. Now, this refers to the process of coordinating with others. The actual CMM definition for coordination is the process by which persons collaborate in an attempt to bring into being their vision of what is necessary, noble, and good, and to preclude the enactment of what they fear, hate, or despise. I'm going to read that one more time because it's a lot. Coordination is the process by which persons collaborate in an attempt to bring into being their vision of what is necessary, noble, and good, and to preclude the enactment of what they fear, hate, or despise. In simpler terms, coordination in CMM is the act of aligning our stories with others. Because communication just is a collaborative process, we literally can't do it without other people. We have to accept that in order to create these better social worlds that CMM talks about, we will have to do that by coordinating with others. Because what we might think of as a better social world might be different than what other people define as a better social world. It's that part of the definition that's our vision of what is necessary, noble, and good. My vision of what is necessary, noble, and good might not match yours. And that's okay. We just have to accept that fact and go from there to figure out how to coordinate with each other and coordinate our stories and our visions. Going back to the meaning in all of this, Pierce and Cronin explain that people can achieve coordination or alignment of their stories lived without necessarily aligning the meaning in their stories told. This is called coordination without coherence. And it's not maybe the ideal, but it gets at this idea that sometimes people's actions or their stories lived will align temporarily, even if their reasons for those actions or their coherence, the way that they've made sense of things, do not align. The point of all of this is actually not to get everyone to agree on one story or one meaning, but to accept the fact that you have to collaborate and then go from there to bring about your better social world, right? It's a waste of your time and energy to try to fight this need to collaborate with other people, this need to coordinate with them, because it's just a fact of the way we function as social creatures. So if we can accept that, then that puts us one step closer to being able to create our better social worlds. We can work all we want to achieve coherence and to coordinate, but this mystery component refers to anything that is beyond that, anything beyond coherence, anything that cannot be made sense of. By including mystery as a part of this group of 3 processes, CMM is just acknowledging something that we already know to be true about our world. We can't control everything. We can't explain everything. Think of the phrase, why do bad things happen to good people? There isn't always a nice and tidy explanation for everything. Not everything will be able to make logical sense, even though we seek to create that in our process of creating coherence and making meaning. So in our understanding of communication and our study of it through CMM, we have to account for that. But once we accept that mystery is inevitable, then we can have a healthier relationship to it. We can leave room for it in our lives, because mystery doesn't have to be something that we are working towards diminishing. I think if we let it, mystery has its place in our communication. So, coherence, coordination, and mystery. Surely there is so much more that we could say about these three, but in the spirit of embracing mystery, I won't try to cover it all here. I'll leave a little room for mystery. So you'll have to take it from here. Spend some time contemplating these three concepts. Try and see if you can see how they are playing out in your own life. How can you start to embrace these processes? How does having language for them help you? It's all in your hands now. Thank you for joining me for Stories Lived, Stories Told. I'm Abbie, and I'll see you next week.